Let's make a gluten-free and dairy-free chocolate fudge cake. Hey bakers, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela from Bake Angel, and today I'm going to show you how to make something that I've been trying to perfect for quite a while, and that's a dairy-free and gluten-free chocolate fudge cake. So you can see here I'm starting straight away by adding some plant-based butter and some brown sugar to a mixing bowl. Now my plant-based butter is at room temperature. I did soften my brown sugar as well just by blasting it for a few seconds in the microwave to make sure there weren't any lumps in it. And then you're going to give it a mix together with your hand mixer until it looks like this. It's lightened the mixture slightly and it's obviously knocked out all of those lumps as well. Now we're going to go ahead and start adding our eggs to this. So I tend to do them one at a time because I don't want my mixture to get too wet too quickly. Then we're adding our second egg in there, and also we're going to add some plant-based milk. Now I'm using an almond milk for this, but you can use whatever plant-based milk you prefer, or just regular milk if you're not dairy free. And then also some ground almonds or almond flour as well. That's going to give it a really nice light texture. And then the final thing we need to do is add our gluten-free self-raising flour and some cocoa powder as well. Now make sure you check the description below. I'm going to pop the link to the recipe in there that has all of the measurements in cups and also in grams as well. And you can also find my recipe link for how to make your own gluten-free self-raising flour as well. So once we've added all the ingredients in, we're just going to continue mixing everything together, as you can see there, and you get a really nice light looking cake batter. I always give it a stir down with a spatula just to make sure we haven't missed anything at the bottom, and then that's going to be ready to put in our baking pan. Now for this I'm using an 8x8 baking pan. I have preheated my oven as well to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll notice I just greased my pan on the sides and the bottom. I'm adding some parchment paper across the one side, and you can see there's a slight overhang there, and then just 2 strips on the opposite sides because we don't want this cake to stick to the pan at all. We want to make it really easy for us to remove it once it's baked, and this method of greasing it and then lining it is actually my preferred one. You could obviously just grease it and then flour it as well if you prefer, but as I said, this is my preferred method for preparing my cake pans. Perfect, so now we can go ahead and add our cake batter to it. I'm just going to grab a spatula again for that, and then we're going to go ahead and just add it into the pan. So just scrape all of it out of your mixing bowl, and then using your spatula you're just going to go around, make sure that all of the cake batter ends up in the corners. Keep working your way around to make sure everything is level as well. And there we go. That's going to be ready to go in our oven. It's going to bake for about 20 to 22 minutes. Obviously the timings might be slightly different depending on your oven, but again, make sure you check that recipe in the description below with all of my hints and tips for baking this cake. Perfect. Let's get that popped in the oven then. Now whilst that's baking, we're going to start on our chocolate fudge icing, and this is my favourite bit of this. When I was growing up I absolutely loved chocolate fudge cake, so this is the bit I was most excited about making. To start with, we've just added some white sugar and plant-based butter and water to a saucepan. We're going to heat these up together over a medium heat and just give them a stir to encourage that butter to melt. Now again, my butter is at room temperature. I guess it wouldn't really matter if yours wasn't at room temperature here, but I already had it out for the cake, so it was at room temperature already. As you can see, I'm just stirring it, encouraging that butter to break down so that everything incorporates into a nice liquid for us. We don't want any lumps in there at all because that could actually affect the consistency of our fudge icing, and this is almost done. Again, this is over a medium heat as well, so even though I'm using a metal spoon, it is really not that hot, but do be careful when you're making this. Okay, that's perfect. It's nice and clear. There's no lumps in it. There's no granules from the sugar either. So we can go ahead and pour it into another bowl, as what we're going to have to do is add a few more ingredients to it and then pop it in the fridge to chill it. And this is why I'm making this while the cake is actually baking, because it does need to sit in the fridge for about 20 minutes as well to chill down. So I've added some icing sugar and cocoa powder to it. Again, I'm just doing that in a couple of stages because it's easier for me to mix it that way. I'm using a wooden spoon here, but you could use a spatula if you wanted to, even a hand mixer if you wanted as well. You're just going to stir it until it is nice and smooth. There will be lots of bubbles in it just because it has come off the heat as well. And once it looks like this is perfect. It looks more like a chocolate sauce at this stage, but we are going to pop it in the fridge for 20 minutes to chill, and then we can turn it into icing once it's ready. So our cake is done. It smells amazing. It has risen nicely as well. And let's just have a quick look at it. It's nice and firm to the touch. I'm going to leave it here for about 10 minutes to cool. And then once it has cooled down, you're just going to get one of your cooling racks, pop a little bit of parchment paper on top of it, and flip the cake out onto it. You want to invert it to help it cool down until it is completely cool. That takes, I guess, about 20 minutes because it's not that deep of a cake, as you can see here. Once it has then cooled down, you can go ahead and peel that bottom layer of parchment off it and any from the sides as well, and then I just flip it back over again onto the cooling rack, as it'll now be ready for us to ice. So our fudge icing is ready for us to whisk up. So now that it's chilled, we can actually whisk it up and it will form a nice spreadable icing for us. This smells amazing as well. It's just like the chocolate fudge icing that I remember when I was a kid growing up before I had my dairy allergy. So I'm really excited to share this recipe for you. I know it's definitely going to be a popular one for those of you that have food allergies. It is whipped up really nicely for us. It didn't take long at all. And now the last thing we need to do is actually frost the cake with it. So I'm just going to pop my cake on a serving platter here. I'll just pull out that last bit of parchment for underneath it, and then you just want to go ahead with a spatula and lather that chocolate fudge icing on top of it. Now, because it's chilled, it shouldn't run off of the cake here. If it is very, very warm when you're doing this, I would recommend chilling it for a little bit longer. This is supposed to be a spreadable icing though, definitely not one that's supposed to run off the cake, and definitely not one that is too firm to spread. If it is too firm, just leave it on the counter for a little bit longer to come back to room temperature before you do actually ice the cake. And then there you go. You can see it is really easy to spread it on. I'm using an offset spatula here as well, just to make it a little bit easier to frost. And that's as simple as it is. Now you could top it with sprinkles, you could add some flakes of salt on top of it if you wanted to, but I think it looks perfect as it is. And the final thing we're going to do now, which I do in every one of my videos, is actually cut a piece of it off so you can see the consistency inside. This cuts really, really easily, and I do recommend that you serve it as soon as you have frosted it. Let's have a look. We've got a really nice ratio of our fudge icing and a nice springy, moist chocolate cake as well. This would be perfect for an afternoon tea party. You could cut it up into pieces and serve it this way as well. And of course, if you're not going to eat it all in one go, you can store it on the counter just in an airtight container. I would pop a little bit of foil on it as well so that the icing doesn't come off. And if you're going to be storing it somewhere quite warm, pop it in the fridge and then let it come back to room temperature before serving it. Really hope you've enjoyed watching this week's bake along. As I said before, don't forget to check out the recipe link in the description below. Share this video with your friends and hit that like button as well, and I will see you on my next video. Thanks for watching.